Okay, good evening, everyone, and welcome back to the 1 hour series. My name is Julia Gorban, and tonight we will finally be discussing the dance auditions. We have the amazing Amber Mak with us today. Amber has worked with Paramount Theatre for a long time. She's also auditioned in New York and worked for different theaters. I'll let Amber introduce herself a little bit more. Tonight we'll be raising money for the Paramount Theatre. As you know, theaters haven't been doing well, if I can say so, lately, unfortunately. So whatever you can donate, we posted a link to their donation page in the comments. So there's, I think, 4 different options to donate. So if you can spare anything, even $5 helps. And like I always say, if you can donate 1,000, donate 1,000. But anything helps. We're always grateful in the arts community. And as we sometimes do tonight, we will be doing a draw for a coaching with Amber. So in order to enter the draw, all you have to do is answer questions in comments on Instagram or Facebook, whatever your choice is. And every time you answer the question, you get entered into the draw. For those of you who've already watched, you know how this goes. If this is your first time watching, then pretty sure you'll figure it out. It's not complicated. So before we go on with the draw, I would like to introduce Amber. And Amber, maybe you could talk a little bit more about what type of things you do, and maybe talk about your background and mention coaching and how people can contact you if they want coaching with you.
Sure. Hi, everyone. Thanks so much for joining us tonight. So a little bit about myself. I started off as a performer. I performed for the first 15 years of my life professionally in Chicago and around the country. I lived in New York, auditioning and worked everywhere but New York, and then got the opportunity to come back on the other side of the table, directing and choreographing, and worked on Big Fish, assisting Susan Stroman on Broadway. So I have experience both as someone that has auditioned for many shows, as well, and performed in many shows. I don't know how many in my career at this point, as well as for the past 8 years, 10 years, I've been on the director choreography side of musical theater, and as well as producing. And I'm the new works development director for the Paramount Theatre. And an artistic associate there as well. So I have worn many different hats. I've started my own nonprofit before, but dance is where I started. I got my dance degree at Northwestern University, and as well as music theater certificate there. And it's my love and my passion. It's what got me into doing this. And that's kind of my basic bio in a very quick nutshell. And coaching, I love coaching. I can coach and getting somebody ready for an acting audition, for an audition for theater, to go through script, as well as dance, song analysis. I do it all since I direct and choreograph. So my favorite thing, honestly, is to coach people, to inspire people, to break down the barriers and to understand the audition process so it's not so scary, because I totally can speak from firsthand experience how terrified I was to audition myself, and the fear and the nerves and the anxiety that I had walking in. And I try to make sure when I'm sitting on the other side of the table now that I entered that room with the same compassion and that I know and understand the nerves. So I always tell everyone that's starting to walk into a room to audition for me, especially a dance audition. If you've been to one of my calls, you'll hear me say at the beginning, this is just part of the process. It's not a product. I don't need perfection. I just need to see that you have the ability to learn and to be a participant and a team player. Potential is more important.
Thank you for that. I just have to mention that I'm sure most of the Chicago actors have auditioned for Paramount Theatre before, but in general, Paramount Theatre is one of the nicest theaters. Like, these are like the nicest people behind the table ever. You come in and you audition and you walk out and you're like, oh my God, this was such a pleasant thing that I just did. It doesn't matter how your audition went, but like, people are always so friendly. I don't know if it's a Paramount Theatre thing or if it's just like, I feel like Paramount Theatre people are very friendly.
I think we all, as an artistic team, we've come together and we've said over and over again, we know it takes people's time and it's energy and it's time off from their work that they have. And it's the beginning of a process, and it's hard. And we understand that it's hard. And so to enter that room with empathy and compassion and respect for every single person that's taking their time to come be with us. So it's a mutual, respect, I think, going back and forth. We're not there to judge, we're there to inspire, we're there to help, and we're there to hope that everyone can fill the role that we need. We're always rooting people on, and I don't think people understand that, at least from the Paramount side. I can speak that we're rooting people on in that audition room. We want them to walk out feeling like they did the best that they possibly could that day.
All right, so to start with, actually, why don't we start with a draw question? So all those watching, just put down the answers in the comments. Since this is a dance, I was going to say a dance audition. I wish we could audition.
Oh, don't we all wish? Oh my gosh, what I would give.
But a dance stream. Why don't you guys let us know if you are a dancer, an actor, singer, dancer, actor who dances, a mover, etc. All those categories. Which one are you? Just want to see what who's watching and get a feel for you guys. So every time you answer a question, your name gets entered into the draw. And then at the end of the stream, we'll do the draw for coaching with Amber. And for Amber, could you just go over how a typical dance audition works? I know you're based in Chicago, so maybe we could just cover Chicago. But if you want to mention anything about New York, that's great too. But maybe just from the point where a dancer walks in the room to sign up on the list to the point where they get to the audition room, like if you can mention like the groups they go in, how long the audition takes, maybe what you're looking for them, anything general that you want to mention, and then we can get into more specifics.
Yeah, I know one of the first questions I always get when I'm answering this is, where do you even find out about auditions for shows and professional theater and things like that? And Actors Equity is actually a great place to find out about auditions, as well as the theater's websites themselves. And then there's different, there's like Backstage that post where auditions are, open audition calls happen, and just finding out, first of all, the location, what time to sign up. And then what you have is the sign up, walking in, and there's usually a list. I'll go specifically over equity auditions. There is a list to sign up, whether you're non-equity. Non-equity means you're not part of the union, but that does not mean that you are not considered. In fact, we hope and pray that a lot of non-equity, non-union talent, fresh new talent comes and joins the audition process. But it's just the list to get your name on, and then once we find out who's equity, non-equity, they'll divide people up. Equity gets first priority at being seen into the audition room first and learning the dances first. And then from there on, it goes into non-equity. And, they'll take you in, depending on the space that you're at, they'll take you in groups of, 10 to, I think they've tried not to do the huge groups as much anymore because spaces don't hold it. I think they've tried to become better at not cramming, 50 girls or 50 guys or 50 people into that room. But they'll bring you in groups, and then you, whoever might be teaching. Sometimes it's the choreographer itself might be teaching the audition, and sometimes it's an associate or an assistant choreographer that starts to teach the audition, and you begin learning a combination, and the combination can be anything depending on what the show is. I mean, sometimes people do, a technique baseline to quickly move through people, depending on if it's, a really technique heavy show, like American in Paris. That's probably going to be a really technique heavy show with ballet. And so they might have you do a really basic ballet combination to really identify who are those technicians, or it could be something that's really movement based and character based, which is a lot of the shows that I've done and worked on in the past as a choreographer. And sometimes I'm just trying to figure out how people move in this space and what their ability is and what their potential is. And so then it might be a really simple movement call with lots of improvisation or character driven movement. So you start to learn, you start to learn that combination. And from there, once you've learned it and there's time to process it, then they'll divide you into groups. They'll divide you into, 8 or not 8, sorry, like 3 people or 4 people at a time, depending on how many people are in the room. And you'll go group by group, and the choreographer and the director and the creative team will watch the group and figure out what the next step is. And usually from that point on, they will call out names of people to sing for a musical specifically, you know, who will need to come in and sing. And that's usually if you're just a dancer, if you think of yourself, if you've limited yourself to thinking that you're just a dancer, where anxiety starts to bubble up. And that's where you have to usually sing 16 bars of a song of your choice, usually preferably in the style of the show. But I always say sing what you feel showcases you the best by all means. Don't come in thinking that you need to do something different than what you do the best. Your audition is your time to showcase yourself. And then from that point, that's an open call. A lot of times after that, it will go to callbacks, and callbacks can range from another dance call. Depending on if there's partnering, it could include partnering or a different style of dance. If, you might only concentrate on one style of dance, and yet the show might call for tap as well. And you might have to come back to a callback and show a completely different style of dance, as well as possibly sing more. And if you're being considered for any roles, read sides. And sides are literally pieces of, parts of the script. And people are like, what are sides? The sides are just an audition side. It's divided up into different parts of the script, a couple pages, and those, they'll hand those to you to prepare prior to walking into the audition. And then that's kind of the really fast nutshell of what an audition looks like, a dance call in the process.
Thank you. It's actually surprising how fast you covered like everything. I don't know how
if I can remember.
Concise. It's like you're good.
If I can remember, I have 20 years of having lived in this business now, at least. Although it feels like this pandemic, I feel like I'm terrified that I won't remember what it's like at all.
Oh my gosh. Something you mentioned, I have a list of questions, and we'll probably also get some questions live as well. But before I forget, the tap auditions, I know a lot of people ask this because sometimes you're a dancer, but you're not necessarily a tapper. So for example, if you have a dance audition, and then I know sometimes they call out names and they're like, okay, would like these people to stay for the next portion of the dance, and it might be a different combo or a different style. Or sometimes they say, okay, we've seen what we needed to see. Those of you who are tappers, stay for tap. Now, it's what are your thoughts on if you're kind of a tapper? So I mean, if you're going for 42nd Street, obviously, if you're kind of a tapper, maybe you shouldn't stay. But if you're not sure what the combo will be, should you stay, or would you say you need to be like at least an intermediate to advanced tapper to even stay for that audition? Like don't waste your time if you're not a tapper, kind of thing.
I think sometimes that has to be your own personal. I say don't limit yourself. If you feel like you have at least a background, I always say use an audition as an opportunity to learn more. And as a choreographer, I will probably be able to tell right away, especially when it comes to tap, if somebody has, it's amazing how quickly all I have to say is like, okay, can you do a time step? And if they can't, then I know that they don't have the basics of a tap.
No time step, but you're not a tapper.
Most likely, right? Like that's my first. Okay, do you know how to do a time step? No. Okay, great. So I know where you are, but that doesn't mean a lot of times. I can specifically say like Elf. I had to do everyone in that show. Every single person in that show had to tap dance by the end of the show, but not everybody was a tapper, and not everybody wore tap shoes. I just needed to know that they could look like they were tapping by the end of the show. So depending, again, you're going to have to use like, how much time do you have? Are you being honest with yourself? But if you have the time and it's an option and you feel like it's a learning opportunity and you could learn from it, I would say stay, go for it, learn, take it as a master class. But if it's something that's going to absolutely defeat you and you're going to come out of it feeling horrible, and you're like, nope, tap is not my thing. Every time I do it, I feel worse about myself, then don't do it. But if you can look at it as a learning opportunity, I would say take that opportunity. It's a free class.
Perfect. Yeah. So it's from the choreographer's perspective, you don't mind if people who are not necessarily dancers come to dance calls or tap calls.
Nope. Not ever.
Okay.
I really don't, especially it's like, again, because every audition is an opportunity, and even though you're auditioning for that show, um, we're always looking at everything else. There's so many other shows and so many
Yeah.
things that are going on in our head that it's like, oh, great. Okay. So maybe not right for this show, but like, I love their energy. I love their personality. I love that they were committed. I love that they gave it their all and that they tried. I love that they're willing to learn. And so maybe it's not right for this show, but now I'm just going to get to know you that much more. And I'm going to get to
Yeah.
know your learning process. And it's so, like, for me personally, it's so important to see what your learning process is and what your energy is. So all that opportunity to stay in the room for me and get to know that is a great opportunity for me on the choreographer side.
Makes sense. Yeah. Okay, I do have a couple of follow-up questions on that, but before we go any further, next
Sure.
question for our audience members. If you'd like to be entered into the draw, uh, let us know which one you'd prefer, ballet, jazz, or tap. Because I feel like uh, those kind of are like the main three that seem to be the theme of musical theater. Usually it's like, oh, you have a ballet audition. If you pass that, they call you back for a jazz audition sometimes for some theaters. Of course, depends on the show, but
I
those
just
three
say, I mean,
are.
it's really changing, right? Like now the styles, we're diversifying so much what the styles and genres are, hip hop is definitely getting in there.
Yes, that,
Contemporary
yeah,
is definitely getting in there. So,
for
but
sure, yeah. So yeah, those watching, let us know which one you prefer. Just interested in who we have here, preferences. And now for Amber, um, let's see. Maybe we could go with this one. Uh, so you mentioned stay for people. I'm talking about people who are not dancers but want to get there and still go to auditions and maybe just to take a master class and learn. Um, so if you see a person coming back and not improving at all, does that, I guess, what are your thoughts on that? Because there's some people who are like, okay, I'm gonna go, and then they come back to the next audition, and you're like, wow, they just like, how hard did they work? They improved
yeah,
so
they
much.
were in class. We could tell
Yeah.
they were in
And
class.
then
Yeah.
what if it's somebody who's not a dancer, doesn't want to be a dancer, but just keeps coming to dance auditions just to get seen, kind of thing, but they don't improve? Would you say don't do that because might be taking somebody else's spot who can dance and couldn't get in because that person got in, kind of thing? Um, like, what are your thoughts in general on that?
Gosh, that's a good question. I think, hmm, my gut reaction is how serious you are if you're wanting to show up, because it's a lot of time and energy to come to an audition, and sit there through that, especially if you're waiting through a couple people's dance calls. It's a couple hours, if not an entire day, for you to go through it. So I guess, how much time do you want to spend? I don't mind if you come. It's up to you, how you want to represent yourself. And if you want to get better, then get into class. But I mean, I do think there's an art to auditioning and getting better and more comfortable with it. And the more you do it, the better you get at it. So, I don't think you're ever taking somebody's spot. There should be always enough time, and auditions will figure out how to prioritize and be able to see who's serious and who's not right away. So, yeah, I would say, take care of yourself, first of all, because it is a lot of time that you have to take, but keep showing up.
Makes sense.
Half of
Good.
it's a game of perseverance.
Yeah, just keep showing up. Who knows? Even if you're not a dancer, maybe, like you said, for some other show, you're like, oh, we actually need a
every
person just like that, and they don't need to
every
dance.
show is so different,
Yeah.
and what we're looking for. And if you're really not a dancer, or you've worked with that theater before and they know you, then you don't need to come. Like, certainly, if that theater knows you, or those people know you, and they know, and you have nothing new to show them, but you really want to be seen however you want to be seen, they'll ask for more. People will always ask for more if they need to see more. If you're really a singer and that's like your strong point, I will ask you in your singing audition, do you dance? Do you move? How comfortable you are? And then I'll ask to see you do something, so, like, also don't just go if you're like, yeah, this is pointless. Or, like, people know my dance auditions are for the most part, fairly athletic. You will come out sweating. But I love to use them as a class. I love to use them as an opportunity to be like a master class. So if people are good with doing that, great, come be a part, come participate, come learn. But if it's also like, no, I know what Amber's gonna ask me to do in that dance audition, it's not it's not what I do. But I also know that if she needs to see something from me, I'm a singer, I want to sing, like I want to show her what I do best, I'm going to sing, I will ask you to see more. I will always ask to see more if I need to.
All right, makes sense. Now, I guess following up on that again, what are you looking for at a dance audition? So let's say if we talk about like intermediate to advanced dancers who are either actors who dance or dancers. So say someone messed up the steps, or versus someone isn't giving you the right energy, versus someone doesn't have the right look. What are the most important things, or what are you looking for as, like, if you were to describe a perfect dance audition, what would it be, kind of thing?
I think I will speak just for me, from what I personally look for. And for me, it's the energy of the person that's auditioning. It is never for perfection ever. And it's never for a certain body type. I, having been a dancer and experienced a lot of that and the pressure that's put on, that's never what I'm ever expecting someone. So I do watch and I do pay attention while everyone's learning the combination. So from the time you walk into that room, your audition has begun. And that does not mean that I am looking for you to execute the steps perfectly at all. It's your willingness to learn. It's your willingness to support the other people that are auditioning. And, you know, I am paying attention to what you're picking up on. And if you're able to pick up on the steps, if you're able, by the time that you know, I've been watching you when the whole groups have been dancing, as well as when I break it down to 3 or 4, you know, I will have had my eye on like, okay, that person picked up that combo super fast, or those steps, but I am never expecting you to know that combo perfectly at all. So it is never like an automatic X if you mess up something. Or if you fall out of a turn, or if you know, or if you fall. That happens. that happens on stage. And I you know, I say it's the time to perfect the combination is once you have the job. The time for me to see your potential, and your ability to learn it and to pick up on, like, I'm very big on bringing your own self and your own personality. I want to see something that goes beyond the steps always. Can you tell a story in what I'm asking you to learn? So like technique helps you because you don't have to think about that. So you can take it to that next level, right? If you know the basic vocabulary of things, then it's not like one of those stress, like, oh my gosh, you just said to do a glissade. I don't know what that is. Like, if you know some technique, it's just going to help you get past the vocabulary so you can bring that next level, especially for musical theater, that I want to see that that personality, that character. I love for people to be specific. You'll, like, when I'm teaching a combination, when I create a combination, it's all character driven or story driven, and you'll hear my inner monologue and the things that I'm thinking about. And I want people to take that ownership and personalize it within themselves. So in that audition, I'm not looking for the perfect step. I'm looking for somebody that picks it up, that has the potential to pick it up, and that embodies the energy of the show and the people in the room. And really, I'm looking for team players, truly. Like, that means supporting, not that you're a competition with the person next to you, because you're not. You're only in competition with yourself.
Yes. Well, it's true. You want team players. You want people who are pleasant to work with, right? You don't want the amazing dancer who kicks everybody off stage, even if they're like amazing.
You can have the most perfect technique, and also I've seen this, if you have the most perfect technique, but it's cold, you know, if I see you just living in the perfect placement of the arms and the perfect, you know, that there's nothing that goes beyond that, I don't care. It's not for me. It's not my show. It might be in somebody else's show, you know, and that's certainly the case. It might be in somebody else's show, and that might be perfect for somebody else. But for me, I want to know that you have something to bring that's beyond that technique. If you're a dancer. Makes
sense. All right. For those watching, before I forget, another question for you guys. And if you answer the question, you get entered into the draw. If you people have been messaging me privately, you can do that and you can still get entered into the draw, but there's no guarantees I can see all your messages. So it's better if you put them in comments, then it's guaranteed that I see them and enter your names into the draw. Same goes for the questions. If you want to ask Amber any questions, make sure you put them in comments. If you, for some reason, don't feel comfortable commenting publicly, it's okay. You can message me, but once again, no guarantees that I'll see it. I'll try my best though. So question for you guys. Thanks, by the way, for answering so far. But since a lot of dancing parts are ensemble parts, and we know that ensemble people sometimes play like a million different parts in a show, we've asked this question before for one of our musical theater streams, but I want to ask it again to see what was the quickest change you guys have ever had to do. As dancers, I'm sure that's probably, you have lots of stories to tell. So let us know. Did anybody do like a 10-second quick change? That'd be very quick, but
13 seconds.
Oh wow.
That's the short. That's what I've had my dancers do.
But like a full costume change, or how much did you have? Wow.
Full costume hairspray at Paramount Theatre, 13 seconds. The nicest kids in town. From opening from Good Morning Baltimore into Nicest Kids in Town. And I still don't know how they did it.
Yeah, that's a big costume change.
Like I still have no idea how they did it, but they did it.
Wow. Yeah.
And sometimes people would be entering on stage and still be like getting zipped up, and it was okay because it was like getting ready for the TV show to start. So like we could go with it, but 13 seconds is the shortest I've ever asked.
Wow. Yeah. And I keep telling my story. When I played Mary Poppins, my scene change for Jolly Holiday scene was.
Oh yeah, that one's fast.
Well, but I didn't. It wasn't 13 seconds. I'm always like, yeah. I had like 40 seconds to. I think they added some music actually because we didn't have enough time, so they added like a vamp there. But and I'm like, oh yeah, it took me like 40 seconds to a minute to do a full costume change. Of course, there was like 3 people helping me, but. And then you go out and you're like, yeah, I did a full costume change in 13 seconds. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna stop with my story now.
I know that they underdressed some of it, but it was including like wig and shoe change. Wow. Because I had this
for hairspray, the wigs also are like, wow,
like it was a thing.
That's
yeah,
impressive. That must have been so stressful too. I don't know how you did it. Like. I guess every time before you go on stage, you're like, oh my God, am I going to have time where am I going to have to hold my wig while I dance?
I didn't, I feel bad because I didn't do it. I just asked my dancers to do it and they did it.
Oh, okay. I thought
it was,
okay.
I don't know. I've done a lot of quick changes. I don't know what my fastest one is. I'd have to think about that I personally did, but I'm just saying I asked my dancers to do a 13-second change and they did it.
Oh, great. So for those of you guys watching, you know now, if you ever audition for Amber, be prepared for 13-second full costume changes. Wow. Impressive. Okay. I totally forgot if I just asked you guys a question, but I think I did. So
you did.
Yes. Oh yes, the quick changes. That's why we went on about quick changes. Okay. So a question for Amber then. What about the clothing you wear for dance auditions? Because I know a lot of us like dressing. Like if we're going out for Chicago the Musical, we're like, okay, it's the 20s. Let's dress up. Do you care? Does it matter? What are your thoughts, suggestions?
I think again, it's going to depend a little bit on the show. But more than anything, it's going to depend. Like I do think it's important that we be able to see your body, and so whatever that means to make you feel confident in it and to be able to see your line and that you can move freely and, that you can wear shoes. I always say have a couple of options of shoes in your bag because you don't ever know what that floor is that you're walking into. So always keep like a pair of tennis shoes that are good grips that you could throw on if you need to, if that floor is just ice, if it feels like it's ice. Don't suffer through an audition and, ballet shoes on a floor that's so slick that you're going to hurt yourself. Ask if you can put on different shoes. be an advocate for yourself, like know your limitations on what your shoes are. Because it does not help if you're like, it doesn't help me see you trying to grip the floor or trying to suffer through sliding everywhere or trying to like suffer through dancing in heels. If the floor is just not conducive, because sometimes it's just an awful floor to dance on in an audition space. So I would say footwear, have options. You know, you never know what you're going to be asked to. So bring suede, bring, you know, rubber, bring your tap, bring your tennis shoes, like bring options of shoes. And then beyond that, bring something that you feel, wear something that makes you feel confident. It doesn't necessarily need to be show specific. I don't like if you're auditioning for Hairspray, I don't need to see you dress up as the nicest kid in town at all. But if it makes you feel better to do that, then do it. That would, like, if it makes you feel more empowered to do that. If it's, you know, if it's Chicago, I'm going to need to see bodies. Like, I want to be able to see what your line is and what your body looks like and how it moves. And I want to be able to see the shapes that we're asking you to make, you know? So if you're just wearing something that's super baggy, I just can't see what that is. I don't know if you're swimming in your clothes. And then, you know, you want to make sure that you can move freely. I've definitely had people show up and they're like, oh, I can't kick in my jeans. Or I'm like, you showed up to a dance call in jeans? Like, why? I know. So just, you know, make sure that you can move freely. If you're a dancer, most likely you're going to come in your dance clothes. Otherwise, if you're a mover, come in things that you can move in and bring a couple of different pairs of shoes, and make sure that your hair is not in your face the entire time. Now, sometimes I'll be like, I want you to whip your hair. And I'll be like, I don't care about your hair. But like, if your hair is just, I've had some people that I'm like, I can't see you. I don't know who you are. Like, I need to like at least be able to see that I have the correct headshot with the person that's dancing in front of me. So, and then people always, this is another question that, especially at a dance call going into the singing call, like, should I change? And I know that there's this huge thing, like, do I need to bring a whole different outfit to change into after I get that call to like, I'm going to sing now? And you just sweated your butt off in your dance clothes. And now you're going to try to go put a dress on or a shirt and tie and stuff. I don't care. I do not care at all. Just come in and sing in the dance clothes. Like, I just saw you there. It's what I remember you in. It's what for me, I do not need to see you change clothes. Again, if it makes you feel better and it makes you like hold yourself in a different way and it makes you more confident as you walked in to have changed and put on a dress or a shirt and tie, great. But for me on the side of the table, I don't care.
Perfect. That's actually one of the questions I personally always have. I'm like, should I change into like, but then if they ask me to stay and sing, then I'm like, but I'm the third in line for singing. Should I just change while in line? Or what do I do? Or should I just go in my leotard? And like, is that
just go in your leotard? Or if you have a skirt, you know, if you have something you want to throw on over your leotard or something that, again, if it makes you feel better, I get that. Like, yeah. I know what I think the biggest thing is like, what makes you feel confident, and really think about that walking in, and don't overanalyze what your outfits are. I won't remember, you know, I know that I used to like hyper criticize myself about like, oh, should I have worn that? What if I should have worn a leotard that stood out more? Or I should have worn this or this or this. I can't, like, I guarantee you after seeing 200 people in a day, I could not tell you who wore what at all. You know, I will identify you as a whole. I might identify if like somebody had on really cool shoes or something. Maybe. I am way more interested in what you're doing in the room than what you're wearing, as long as I can like see you as a whole. So like, don't be hypercritical on and nitpicky on every little detail, which I know I did.
Yeah, I totally do that too. I'm like, should I put my makeup on this way, or should I like have a hint of like the era of the show? They're probably overthinking it. Just go in, dance, show your personality, done.
Like, yeah. I won't. There's too many people, and I'm writing down, you know, as much as I can, as fast as I can, and glancing up, and I'm trying to take in everybody. And I wish I could say, but that's like what callbacks are for. You know, I'm going to look at you much closer at a callback. So callbacks is when like, and you'll get so much more information, you'll know, but like, that's when it's more like, if you want to get more specific about stuff, or if you're like, now you know what character you're being looked at or whatever, you know what the dance style is. So you know if you need to dress, you know, more appropriate for that dance style or something. Great callbacks, but like generals, I am like going as fast as I can. I'm getting as much information as I can, and I cannot tell you what you wore at all.
Well, that makes everything easier. We don't have to change.
Yes.
Yay. Thank you for that.
At least for my auditions.
Yeah, we've actually discussed the specific questions with a couple of people. We never did dance auditions, but we did singing auditions where we talked about singing after dancing, and I think everybody kind of agreed with you that they don't really care what you come in.
We don't care.
Yeah. So like,
nope.
Just come in and do a good job. That's all we care about. So that's great. Now let's see. You guys watching, if you have any questions, make sure to put them down in comments, or you can message me. I see a couple of people messaged me, so I'll try to check those messages to see if there's any questions. So make sure to put down the questions in comments as soon as you can, just because we do have only about an hour for this stream. So if you'd like us to get to your questions, put them down as soon as you can. And next question for the draw. I'm pretty sure I ask this every single stream because every time we discuss musical theater anyway. But what are your favorite musicals? And I see some people who are watching are people who watch every time. So, I apologize for you guys having to answer the same question over and over again, but maybe have a different favorite musical this time. Let us know and you'll get entered into the draw. And for Amber, we talked about, I guess, mostly actors who dance / movers, but let's talk about dancers because we do have different people watching this stream. So if you're a dancer, like dancing is your primary thing and you're amazing at it and you nail the choreography, and as a choreographer, when you have, let's say, okay, here's 10 dancers and they're all amazing dancers, and you have to pick, let's say, only 5 of them for this ensemble number, what are the criteria you go by?
You mean to cast overall?
Well, yeah, I guess it's
like,
so specific. Whether sometimes you need like, they all need to be, I don't know, this tall or something, or the same height or something. I guess that also plays a role. But I guess overall, what can one amazing dancer do better than another amazing dancer? Is it like better technique, or is it better emotions, or better like picking up choreography? What is like the top thing that makes you go, yes, this is the person over that person?
Yeah, it's for me always will be the specificity that they bring beyond the technique and beyond the dance. So what's the story, what's the emotion that they're able to bring beyond, and when I say that, I don't mean like put on a plastic smile and dance, I don't want to like see, yes, I'm smiling, I did it, like look at me, like there are people that have like definitely practiced faces as they're dancing. Like I want to see genuine like connectivity with the movement and the story, and that you have to sometimes do some of that work on your own as you're learning that choreography. Like, can you add that context, that subtext to whatever you're doing? And that for me will always, that is who I will gravitate to in a heartbeat. I know that there's some choreographers that really do, they want that line and they want everyone to be the same height and the same size and the same. That is not me. I know that that's certainly, one thought of different, but for me, it's always storytelling. That's what I will gravitate to every single time. Can you bring something beyond just doing a kick line? Because I'm going to ask you to do something. I mean, say, Be Our Guest, Beauty and the Beast, right? Like, the napkins, they had to do a can, and they had to do PKs in a circle, right? So I needed girls who could kick and do PKs in a circle. Great. There's a lot of girls out there that can kick and do PKs in a circle, and to do a jump split. And so how do I go beyond that? How do I choose, I wish I could say that there was just a few people in the world that could do that. But as when you go into the dance world, there's so many people that can do that. So it's like, okay, who can bring a napkin to life? Who can make this mean more to them 8 shows a week doing the can and the PK circle? Who can bring a different life and a different character so it doesn't become that we're just doing this because I told you to do a can. I have to find out if there's some more emotion, more story that you've got in there that you can personalize that movement and make it really live all the time. And I'm going to be like, if you can do that on audition, you're in my show. And you have to be a nice person.
Yes. Especially if you're going to work for Paramount Theatre. Everybody's nice there. It's like number one.
You have to be
filter.
You have to be a nice person. And I will find out if you're not. Stories travel very fast in the world of theater, you know, and the world of dance. Like you find out who has not been kind to others, and that's like my number one thing for me. You have to be a team player. I'm going to ask you to do crazy, especially in the shows I'm doing. I tend to do the really huge spectacle musicals that I'm going to require you to do crazy things and to be crazy characters, and a lot of times non-human characters. And I've worked a lot with puppetry, and I'm going to ask you to tap dance while holding a bird and making it sing. And can you go on that journey with me? Because that's not a skill that you walked into the audition with, you know? So I need to see that you're game to go play that journey and go down that path with me and be willing to try it. Or I've had people, like I had my dancers, Wizard of Oz, they had these huge, enormous tornado things. I don't even know how to describe it, on their back. I mean, 30 feet tall things. And I was like, can you paddle turn with this? So that took their technique. And I was like, and I need you to be extraordinary with your paddle turn because you have a 30-foot tornado on your back. You know, so that's why I say like personality is so important, because I need to know that, yeah, you can do that, but now I'm going to ask you to add so much more that's going to complicate your life, and it's going to go beyond that paddle turn.
Yeah. Or it's like, oh, you can do forte turns. Great. Now let's put this on your head and it's not balanced. Now do it.
And that's why I need the people that are going to be willing to be like, okay, Amber, I don't know, you're crazy, but I'm going to try. I'm going to do my best, and I'm going to like, or maybe I can't do this, but this is what I can do. And I love that collaboration. Like that's so important for me, that artist collaboration, that dancer collaboration, and understanding what, you know, what their limits are and also what they can bring. Because I always say at the end of the day, it's not me doing the dance on stage, it's you. And I've got to figure out what works for you. So that's why knowing my dancers and knowing what they can do and that they can bring something beyond that audition to the table and who they are and their personality, that's for me 100%.
Perfect. Yeah. And you're right about, you know, news traveling fast too. Not news, but like, don't piss off anyone and be nice to everyone. Also,
and you never know where that person's going to end up. I mean, I was my whole career, I spent my whole performing career, I was ensemble girl, #1 at the end, working my way up to dance captain. And now I'm directing and choreographing some of the biggest shows. So I definitely know there's some stories of people that would never have suspected my trajectory. I don't know that I would have suspected my trajectory, you know? But yeah, be nice.
Yeah, you never know. And I guess the same goes for like when you're actually in the show, being reliable also. I know when I've organized things or like concerts, I've never done a whole show, but I've done some concerts, and if there's nothing worse than, you know, you expect the person to be there or to learn this by the rehearsal, and they show up and they're not ready. And you're like, oh my God, I can't wait for this to be over and I will never work with this person again. And then, of course, you tell everybody else that, yeah, this was not a good experience. So people are like, oh, I don't know if I should hire that person next time, kind of thing.
Yeah, just know that you're on a team. I mean, I think sometimes we think of this as theater and stuff is so individual, or dance as an individual thing, you know, but at the end of the day, you're trying to create a production together, and it takes a lot of people to create that production together, and to respect each other, to walk into that room with respect. And that's preparedness for me, and being prepared, and that's showing the other people in the room that you respect them. So I try to do that, and I expect the same of my company to do for me. So respect is just a huge thing. And yeah, word travels fast if you're not. if you've disrespected in this community, you know, and obviously there's always perspectives, and you have to take it when you hear stories, and you have to take it with like, okay, what's the context?
Of course,
because you know, obviously everyone's going to have a different viewpoint of how a story evolves, but you know, if you hear a repeat story over and over and over again about somebody's behavior, and that they're for me, it's not necessarily being, some people say difficult. Oh, this person was really hard because they wanted this and this and this. Advocating for yourself is not being difficult. But not honoring and respecting your castmates, that's where I don't play that game.
Oh, and Paul, hi Paul. Paul is saying there's also the issue of actors. Oh my gosh, well, showing up high or drunk. Yes, that's like taking it to the next. Although I've heard stories about like that too, like people getting fired
and that's not
from lead roles because they were drunk at rehearsals. I'm like, what is going on?
Yeah, that's not respecting the other people. Like, that's not respecting. Yeah, you know, at the end of the day, respect yourself, respect your teammates.
Yes, simple as that. Oh, we are almost out of time. So you guys watching, if you have any questions, now's the time to ask them. If we can't get to all of them, I promise that we'll put them onto the next streams. And I know I do have a list of questions from people who've already asked questions. And if we don't get to your question today, I apologize, but I promise next time we will. And one more question for the draw for everybody. Since Amber, you mentioned Wizard of Oz, why don't everybody, if you were cast in the Wizard of Oz, what character would you be cast as? Or if there's a character you would like to play in the Wizard of Oz, what character would it be? Let us know. And for Amber, we had a question. Actually, let me read this one because it was a question that was not on my list. Some of the questions I just combined, but this one was specifically from a person who messaged me just now. Okay, what is the best way to memorize choreography for non-dancers? If I am somewhere between a mover and an actor who dances, what is the best way for me to go about memorizing something that's longer than, let's say, 8 bars of music?
Yeah,
that's a
I get this question all the time.
Yeah,
like learning choreography is so hard, and being able to recall it, writing it down, there's something that connects you. If you can write it down, however it makes sense to you, write it down. I still have to write down all my choreography, as well as videotape it to remember it myself. And then also, I think people underestimate the power of rhythm. So if you're in an audition and you're really having, and I will force people to do this, but if you're really having a hard time figuring out how a weight transference happens or what it does, honestly, if you're a singer and you come from a musical background, sing a rhythm of something. You know, you'll hear choreographers while they're teaching, a lot of times they won't count, which is super annoying because you're like, wait, is it on 8 or is it on 5? And you're like, it's on a ta-da-da. But if you can start to either make your breath go with that, or you can actually vocalize that, that will honestly start, your voice will connect with your movement, and your voice and your movement will start to memorize it. So like if you can sing your movement, if you can sing your rhythms, if you can find a way to connect that together, you will memorize it better, but always writing stuff down too. So like if you're in an audition, start to sing it, start to be that person that uses their breath and uses the scatting of it as you learn it. And if you're actually just learning choreography and you're in process in a show, write it down, and then repetition. It has to become something that you just don't think about, that it's muscle memory.
All right, thank you. I hope that answers your question, Kate. And we have, let's see. Yes, we can take another question or two. I know we started a little bit late. Paul is asking, what are the most valuable dance techniques, in your opinion, for working musical theater actors?
Oh, it's changing so fast. I, gosh, that's a good question. I think, first of all, I think like some sort of jazz-esque world, I think getting to know how your body moves, like understanding how it moves. I think ballet, a basic ballet class, understanding vocabulary of ballet is helpful just because it's a foreign language, right? So if you hear an audition, if you're not stressing over what a chassé is or a ton de flesh or things that people will just sputter out because that's what they're used to communicating in. If you can translate that quickly to whatever that means to you, that helps. So I think having a basic sense of ballet, but I think the most important thing is like a jazz. If you're a mover that's trying to get into musical theater, you need to just figure out, you need some strength and you need to figure out how your body moves in space. And I think, basic jazz classes will get you there. I think if you can have some tap in your back pocket, again, not every show requires you to be a master tapper, but if you're on audition and you need to know that tap vocabulary, try to get that tap vocabulary down. What is a time step? What is a flap? What is a shuffle? What is a ball change? And then one that I would always like that nobody ever really puts out there, but I say basic ballroom. If you have the opportunity to learn some ballroom, the amount of times that you have to partner in a show and know how to partner, and that, I mean, especially for movers, if you can learn what a waltz is, if you can learn a polka, if you have some of that basic vocabulary, there's a good chance that you're going to have to do some sort of partner dancing in a show. So that wasn't like, I can't say there's one. I guess know your body. Jazz, if you're a mover, start there. But if you can just start to learn vocabulary, that's the most important part. Like if you're a mover, get that vocabulary so it's just not foreign to you when you walk in.
Yeah, and I feel like you're right that it's changing so fast. Sometimes I personally would come into a dance audition. I'm like, oh, okay, this is for sure going to be in heels. And then the choreographer comes out and they're like, well, actually, we're going to have you guys in sneakers. And we're all like, what? Well, good thing I brought them because I did not think the show would be in that style. But, like even with shows that are like, oh, this is like a really classical show. I'm sure it's ballet. Let me bring my pointe shoes just in case. And then they get you to wear sneakers. And you're like, okay, well, I guess we're doing hip hop. Because you never know where it's going to go, right?
Yeah, I feel like everyone's reimagining, like trying to take things, it's like, oh, especially the classics. Everyone's trying to reimagine what the classics, are, what they look like in today's world and context and things like that. So you just kind of never know, which is why it's so important I even say like, if you're a mover, take a Zumba class or take a work class or something, just again, so you get rhythm and you get used to moving with rhythm and in the space. Because I feel like half the time people hear the word dance and they start walking same arm, same leg, or they hear the word choreography and they do things that they would never naturally do if they didn't hear those words. So whatever you can do to move and get yourself to know your body and how it moves to music. And if that's like taking a Zumba class, because that's where your like entry level is, great, do that. Have fun, shake your booty, shake your hips, learn some isolation, because it will benefit you learning what you do in space. And when somebody's asking you to, a lot of times it's owning it, having confidence, and confidence is hard if it just seems foreign to you.
Oh my God, I have to say though, Zumba is so hard. I was like, I'm a dancer, I can do this. I went with my mom and my mom was like, oh, let's go. And we went for an hour and like cardio. I was like, oh my God, too bad I take a lot of ballet. I should have taken, I don't know, like running or something for Zumba. It is so intense.
I just know everyone has different entry level points, and if ballet seems intimidating, then find a different way to move. It doesn't have to be. And like I said, there's so the way shows are being developed and what they're asking for is so different now than what I would say, if we were talking 20 years ago, even like when I first started ballet, I'd be like, oh yeah, you need technique, you need ballet.
Sure.
And it's different now.
For sure. Well, things are changing. Let me see. Let me ask you this question, because we did cover quite a bit about auditions, but somebody asked this. it's about rehearsals. Actually, first, before we do that, you guys watching, last question for you. We always ask this. What are some other topics you'd like us to cover during these streams? While we're in quarantine, we'll try to help out as many actors as we can. So if there's something you'd like us to cover, let us know, and we'll do our best to find guest speakers for those topics. And of course, if you answer the question, you'll be entered into the draw one more time. And last question for you, Amber. During rehearsal, so once you picked your dancers, how long approximately do you spend on a dance number? I know that's kind of, a range because it depends on how complicated it is, but how fast do you expect people to pick up choreography? Is it like you show it once, they can videotape and go home and learn it kind of thing? Or do you spend like 8 hours just rehearsing it over and over again till people get it?
That is a good question. It depends on kind of where I'm working and what the process is. And, so I'll take, a Paramount process is 3 weeks of rehearsal that we get for 6 days a week, as prior to the pandemic, at least. Who knows what coming out of this? Maybe it'll be a little bit more humane. No more 6-day a week rehearsals. I'm advocating for that. But 3 weeks. So it is a pretty fast process. That's why I say like learning potential, like how quickly can somebody pick it up or has the potential to pick up choreography is important, because I will teach it. I will always say, I'm going to teach it. We're going to learn it. I don't need to know that it's perfect yet. I won't perfect it until I know that it's the right shape for me. And then once I know it's the right shape for me as the choreographer, then I will tell people to go away and you have to do your homework. Like once I've said, okay, you guys have learned it. This is it. It's in the books. We're going to move forward with this version of it. Then I need you to go home and do your homework and get it down, and then we'll clean it, and we'll spend, after having learned like a giant production number, like Be Our Guest probably took 2 days, 2 full days to learn, because it's, a 10-minute number, 12-minute number, some crazy long number, so that probably was 16 hours of rehearsal, and you probably weren't used in the entire 16 hours. Gaston took so much time. Beauty and the Beast is the most recent prior to, well, I guess I did Secret of My Success. That Secret of My Success was a brand new show. And that was really, I had movers. I had mostly movers in that show, and figuring out their vocabulary, and then, taking it away. And they did, they had to take the choreography away and learn, because there was only so much time and I was throwing new choreography at them. So I will tell you though, like once I am happy with something, to go home and rehearse it and learn it, and come back to it. And the next time we revisit it, which could be over a week, I will expect you to retain it.
Yes. Well, yeah, if you do only have 3 weeks of rehearsals, it makes sense that you show it and then people go home. And I'm assuming you're okay with people recording stuff and do for right? As long as they won't.
Well, yeah, equity rules will not allow us to share or to record any of the actors in a rehearsal room, but you can always ask the choreographer to be recorded, or the associate to. And I'm like, for me, I'm always happy to make videos of myself or my associate choreographer doing whatever parts you need to be able to take home and practice.
Okay, yeah, because I don't know, for me personally, videos are, especially if you're like, okay, we're rehearsing this number today and then not coming back to it until like 2 weeks from now. So I'm like, okay, I gotta be rehearsing it or reviewing it at home, and then in 2 weeks I can come back and not be like, oh, what was after this stuff again?
Which is so common, which is why I say at least write down something, because the realities are that you're not going to see, you're going to have learned, the opening number or something, and then we're going to move on and we're not going to see that again. And the first time we all come back, it's like, oh yeah, did you guys remember it? Anybody review it?
You don't remember what we did?
Yeah. So write it down, take responsibility. That's huge. I will notice that, and I will definitely notice the people that like have taken it upon themselves to review it and know it. So when we come back to it, it's not like they've never seen that dance before or heard that music.
Yeah. Makes sense. Just maybe a quick question, because Jennifer is asking, please please ask this. Jennifer is a Chicago actress. Now, I know a lot of Chicago theaters, not all of them and not all the time, but sometimes they cast people from New York, especially for lead roles. Why is that? Because there's a lot of Chicago actors who say, oh, we have Chicago talent. Why do you cast from New York? Is it the star quality because it sell tickets, or because you simply can't find anyone in Chicago?
Yeah, I think I know that I got really frustrated with this as an actress in Chicago, and I would feel that my daughter might be coming in. Sorry. And now, having been on the other side, I know that the frustration, I think it depends on the theater. I think it depends on the team. I know I am really dedicated to finding, if I can keep it local, I will do everything I can to keep it local. But sometimes there's that one role that is really specific, that there's a vision of the director in their heads of what they want, and what they want out of that character, and what they want out of that match of a different, with whoever the other lead is. And there's the whole team that has that idea of the vision. So it might be the director, it might be the choreographer, it might be the music director, and people just can't agree, and they see the talent and they go through auditions here and nobody agrees on it. And then they go to New York. Like I said, it's certainly my last resort to do that. But I know that it feels often like, oh, that they just went to New York for that role. And there's a consistency, an 8 show a week consistency that people sometimes, especially newer talent, you're like, for better or worse, you need to have confidence in somebody that can carry a show for 8 shows a week for a 10-week run, and knowing what that confidence is when you're casting them in a lead, and building up to that. Again, it's a delicate balance, and I know that it's a hard one, and I wish I could say what the exact answer is. But it costs the theater a lot. It costs the theater a lot of money to hire out of town actors. So I don't think, as much as people suppose it might be the first go-to and that we're looking for star quality. I know Paramount, nobody cares. Like, nobody cares if it was a Broadway actor. They don't know. The audience doesn't know. They don't know the difference. So that's not our first go-to for us or for me. But I can think of like one specifically, Peter Pan down at Chicago Shakespeare. We ended up hiring Johnny Shea, and he was out of town actor. It was just a really tough role. Like, all the things that I needed that specific character to do, it was just an incredibly hard role to fill, period, because of the amount of skills that I needed to check off the box. And finally, like, when we looked, everywhere we could, it was like, okay, I think we've settled on someone that checks all those boxes for the vision of the show, with the entire team on that. So I get it, and it's really hard. And I believe in Chicago actors. I really do, me personally, and I will advocate for them, and I will champion them as far as I possibly can.
Yeah, and I think you're right. Sometimes it's New York does have more actors, so sometimes if you're like, oh, I really can't find anyone in Chicago, you got to go to New York or like other cities, maybe even.
There's just a larger talent, like, there's just that many more people in New York. It's not because New York is like there's just more. Yeah, there's just more actors there in New York. So yeah. I wish I could say, I definitely know that there's different theaters and different ideas behind like why they cast, and that, oh, they always go and, oh, I won't be anybody until I'm in New York or whatever. I don't think that. I mean, I don't think that. Know that there's people here that are championing and cheering on the Chicago talent and believing in the Chicago talent. And casting is such a freaking crazy puzzle. And I wish I knew half the time. I wish I knew everything I knew now from sitting on the other side that when I was an actor, because you blame yourself and you say, oh, it's because I did this, or it's because I did this. It is such a specific puzzle where you're trying to every single person on that team, from the music director to the choreographer to the director to possibly the artistic director and the producer, et cetera, need to like agree on who's being cast. And then you're looking at the puzzle of like, okay, can they cover? Do I have somebody that can, if you're looking at ensemble, it's like, oh yeah, that person was the best dancer. I want them so bad, but I need this track to cover this role. And I just don't have that space because I need them to be able to sing this. And then the ensemble, they need to be able to cover this and this and this. And they need to, like, it is the puzzle that goes on is so crazy. And half the time it's not the very best people, the very best dancer may not make it in the show because they simply don't fit into the puzzle of that specific show. And it is so frustrating. It's so frustrating to me, and my heart breaks like every single time because I'm like, oh my God, they killed that audition. Like they were like and I'll sit there, especially for dancers, I'll go like to the music director, but please, like, but I really, and especially in professional shows, you look in those, if you really look through a program, there's rarely anyone that's in the ensemble that's not covering. There's only like 1 or 2 tracks that's a pure ensemble track. Most of the time they're covering one of the leads.
Yeah, so you gotta sing and dance. It's if it were just the dance part, I guess it would be easier. You wouldn't have to be an amazing singer. But
I so wish, like, there's so many times, especially the dancers, when I'm like, oh, I love you, please. Like, I'll literally look to the team like, I love them. Can we add a person? Can I have an extra, can I have an extra ensemble member, please? Like,
oh my gosh, that's interesting. Yeah, it's interesting to hear the perspective of someone behind the table, because you're right. I think as actors, when we audition, we're like, but I nailed it. Why? What happened? But also, like, I feel like if you keep doing a good job, if somebody like you sees this dancer and you're like, oh my God, I love this dancer, I wish I could hire them. Maybe the next time you're like, oh my God, it's this dancer again. And next time you hire them because you remember them from last time.
Well, and the show will be different and the track will be different. And they'll be like, oh, finally, I have, like, this is the show where I get to use this person, because there's so many times where I'm like, finally, this is the show for them. Like, this is the one that they fit into, and I can finally get to collaborate with that person. Yeah. Don't self-hate and don't blame yourself if you didn't get a show. Continue to evaluate and analyze and improve upon, your skill set and grow. It always never stop growing, but as a person and as an artist and as a dancer, but don't ever just blame, like, go back at home and tear yourself up because you made a mistake at a dance call, or that you wore the wrong thing, or, you cracked on that one note. We can hear through that. We can hear when there's nerves. We can hear, like, and we'll give you that chance, and we'll give you that opportunity. Or I guess I will give you that, like, I will give you that chance. I can't speak for everyone. But like, just be kinder to yourself. It's hard enough. And there's so many pieces that are going on behind the table, including equity versus non-equity contracts. That's another huge thing. Like, we have only in a regional theater house, it's different on Broadway because Broadway's all equity. But in a regional theater house, you have so many equity contracts versus so many non-equity contracts, and it comes down to budget and how much people, how much they can afford. And so half the time too, you're playing with the game of like, okay, well, here's who I think it's going to be, but they're equity. But if this person doesn't accept, then I can have this person come in. And if this person doesn't accept, then I can have this person, but I need this person to cover this person. Shoot, that person can't cover that. Like, and it's why casting takes so long. I remember sitting there waiting for the phone to ring and be like, what are they possibly doing? Like, what? Like, they've had days now. Like, they knew when I walked in the room, they knew if they were going to use me. Well, I can tell you now, we actually don't. Or we might think, but it might just be having to understand, like, you have to wait for the offers to be accepted. It's like, okay, well, I need to get the leads first, or the, principals first cast. And those contracts have to go out because you have to see if the equity contracts fall into who you think they're going to. And if they don't, then you can, like, move around who the next group is. And that's why it takes so long. the contracting of it all and getting the responses back and forth and how it affects each person, it is so much more complicated than I ever knew. So just be kind to yourself. Persevere.
Yeah, and I guess the final casting process, I'm not surprised it takes so long because you have to consider all these different things. I feel like callbacks are probably like, you're like, oh, let's just call back all these people and see you can do that instead of just being like, oh, let's specifically go through each person and make sure we're only calling back people who we might cast. But if you're actually, hiring them, you gotta consider all these different things. Because I remember for Marriott Theater's West Side Story, the callbacks were the next day after the auditions, and I was like, wow, that's fast. But then the casting itself usually took
forever.
Yeah, it takes forever, and then the show never got to go on, unfortunately. Hopefully at some point, but yeah, let's come back soon, theaters. But yes, we went major overtime. Thank you so much for doing this, Amber. And I know we started a little bit late. And thank you everybody for commenting and asking questions. And if you have any
if you want to reach me, like I'm on Facebook, feel free to, at my website, I'm under construction. I'm working on it. So eventually you'll be able to go to ambermak.com to contact me, but it's under construction right now. And I'm on Instagram. And Facebook, I'm happy to answer questions. I'm always available. Yes. I want to break down be as transparent about the process as much as I can for actors out there and dancers and people, because I know I played a lot of mind games with myself, and the more I can help ease that anxiety, the more I want to. If that's what I can do in the world to help somebody be kinder to themselves when they walk into that room, I'm here for you. So ask me questions, contact me.
Thank you so much for that. And for you guys watching, Amber's contact information will be at the end screen after we're done with the stream. So you can find her on Instagram, or always feel free to message this page if you can't find Amber for some reason. So now it's time to do the draw. Amber, can you pick a number from 1 to 9?
6.
6. Number 6 is Jaylan. Congratulations, Jaylan. You won. Okay, Jaylan, message me and I'll put you in touch with Amber. Well, thanks again, everybody. And we're going to end this just because I want to let Amber go. I know your daughter's waiting. So thank you again, Amber, for doing this. I appreciate it. Thank you so much, everybody, for watching, and join us again next week to discuss Shakespeare auditions. All right, thanks, everybody, and good night.